Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's Lazy Sunday, Sabbath day, and the family's back home. They had a wonderful time, and everybody is tanned. They're both two blonde-headed children here, my grandchildren, blonde-headed, and a tan. It's just such a sight to see. They all had a wonderful time. Everybody was fine and wonderful. So they had a good vacation. So I've seen, often want to talk about this real quick. See many videos and even posts, of people and how am I worthy, and I've made so many mistakes in my life and I'm down in the dumps, and this, how am I worthy of God's love? How am I worthy? How can I not end up basically in hell regardless? And to me, it's always, well, where do you want to start to become more worthy then, right? Yes, if that's how people feel. And I look, Mom, I've gone, well, I always started everywhere as what? A slave. Just about. Right? Yes? The dumps that we all moved into, every dump became a slave to the dump of others and had to clean that up. But slowly, I elevated again my surroundings. Yes? That's how you elevate yourself. You start at the bottom, right? Every time. And you work your way up. That's what you do. Then you also see your own progress. Yes? I thought about, on how slavery, right? It's a horrific thing. And yet, when you think, on what did Jesus say? The first will come last, and the last will come first. What does that mean? What does that mean? What are the last? Who are the least among the people? It's when you belong to someone else, when you're a slave. When you do things that you say, why didn't you guys do? Why do I have to do that? How nasty are you people out there that then I have to clean up your garbage and all that? Yes? Clear my surroundings with what? My presence. My presence. That is filled with God's love. Yes, Jesus' teachings. Yes. And the Holy Spirit. Sure. Right? But I always had to start at the bottom. Way down at the bottom. Yes? Anyway. So, if you are someone that has slaves in their ancestry, you should be proud of yourself that you made it to where you are now. And pray that anyone that's still a slave out there, when it comes to the physical aspects of it, where you truly belong to someone else, someone bought you, then they can do with you whatever they want. And you have to work for them for nothing. That they too can start to elevate themselves, and that all will be abolished to start with. Right? And I've just turned this around. Who do you think, if you got slavery in your ancestry, that's horrific, just deed done to people, who's going to fare better when it comes to Jesus' words? First will come last, and the last will come first. If you're making something out of your life now, honor that. Start at the total bottom of your ancestors. And that their suffering and sacrifice gave you a start in a country now where you can really make something out of yourself. be someone that obeys the 10 Commandments, knows about Jesus, and is willing to embrace God's heart of love. Right? Yeah. Even every job that I had, I started at the bottom. Not as a slave, just about. Volunteers are sometimes slaves, aren't they? You do it all for nothing, out of the goodness of your heart or whatever. Every job I just about had, I started at the bottom as a volunteer. Then suddenly, oh, wow, she's really great. Let's see if we could get her to work for us more hours, this or that, be here at certain times, and start paying her. Yeah, yes, yeah. It was the same when I was teaching first Sunday school, children. Yeah, middle school, nobody wanted to teach them. Too difficult to control them. Children don't need to be controlled. They need to be taught and kept safe. And I loved it. Did so many wonderful things with those children. And the principal of the school there saw that. Said, I'm going to hire her that teach the same grades. It was great. I loved it. It was so much work, but I loved it. I loved it from A to Z. Always started at the bottom. Always with anything that I did. Growing vegetables. Yes, you start at the bottom with what? Soil. You got to have some good soil, and you work the soil. Then the next thing, get you some good seed, right? Always found great seed. Right? From whom? Others who do the same thing. Then you see it grow. Right? Yes, it's amazing to just start with anything at the bottom and then watch it grow. Yes, and I raised animals. That's the most amazing thing. When I had the goats and they would give birth, it was always, it never just became okay, some more goats, babies. It was always a wonderful event. Always. Didn't matter. With our animals, with the horses, every one of them that we got, we had to start at the bottom. Every one of them had problems where you had to get them first to a point where you could ride them, that they were healthy enough to ride them. And Charlie came to us, though he wasn't badly taken care of or anything, but the lot that he was in for 10 years. It must have had something that started to attack his eyes. When he came to our farm, 10 years old, that was almost 20 years ago now, I could tell him, man, something's wrong with his eyes. It looks like he's going blind. Did we just get for free a blind horse, or a horse that's going blind? So I started reading up on it. And I used goat's milk. It has these amazing enzymes in it. And started washing out his eyes. 3 weeks I did that. And they cleared up. He hasn't had a problem since. He also came with a respiratory infection he got every spring for 3 years. Coughing, snotting, and I called him and said, man, what's going on with this? Yeah, he would have that every spring. So again, it's probably because of the environment. As I said, he wasn't badly taken care of. Just the environment that he was in, more or less a dirt lot. And it was big, it was pretty big, but there was again. And I ended up giving him the avocado seed tea. And for every time in the spring, when I realized, he's going to start again, I would do that. And it took about 3 years. He hasn't had one since. So what? 16, 17 years. He's been fine now. Yeah. Always started at the bottom of the animals, too. some of the puppies, some of the dogs we had, they came in a condition that was just, how anyone can mistreat animals like that is unbelievable to me. What kind of people are these people to treat the tiny little puppy to the point of you don't even know what you got in your hands? It looks alive, but what is it actually? It's so destroyed. And there too, start at the bottom. Right? Yes, first thing I always did with animals like that, a bath. They would stink so bad as well. First a bath, and then just nurse them back to health. And they'd be with us for, gosh, most of our dogs. Not all of them, but most of our dogs that we got like that. They were with us between 15 and 18 years. Not something. So, how do you become worthy in the eyes of God? You start at the bottom, then you work your way up. Read the 10 Commandments. Go, which ones do I need to really work on? Pick one or two. Don't try to do them all at the same time if your life's really that whatever. Right? And really stick with it. Work your way up from the bottom. Yes. The Lord's Prayer is an amazing prayer to keep your strength. Yes. Yeah. So, there it is. Yeah. That's, one can lament all day long over how worthy you are or not, or where you're going to end up in the afterlife. It's your doing. Right? It's you. What do you give to your worthiness? And it's never too late. I've sat with people dying at the 11th hour as a volunteer and seen their spiritual existence change just with their willingness to accept certain things. Suddenly being given an opportunity to, forgive, be forgiven. Yeah. All right. Anywho, that's what I wanted to share early this morning on the Sabbath day. It's a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day. There's a few little wispy, white, I can't even call them clouds, just little streams of something out there. Otherwise, it's going to be a beautiful day. Probably going to put out the pool and just have a lazy day. And just be grateful, thankful again for another day. And yes, that's another thing too. If you can be grateful, thankful, regardless of what your circumstances are. Right? It's a good start too. Yes, elevate your own self, your mood, right? To want to what? Okay. All right. So we're in 1 Samuel 12. Samuel gives way to Saul. Okay. Samuel said to all Israel, I have faithfully done all that you ask of me and have appointed you a king. In future, the king will lead you. As for me, I am old and gray, and in any case, you have my sons. Oh, his sons who are what? Don't care a whit about God? Oh, that's great. You got my sons. Yeah, that's a great... I inherit my sons who are what? Set before and not much good. Yes. Now there, as a dear me. Samuel, what have you become? I have been your leader ever since I was young until today. Here I am. Bear witness against me before Yahweh and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Whose donkey have I taken? Have I wronged or oppressed anyone? Have I taken a consideration from anyone for looking the other way? If so, I will make amends. They said, you have neither wronged nor oppressed us, nor accepted anything from anyone. He said to them, Yahweh is your witness, and his anointed is witness today that you have found nothing in my hands. They replied, he is witness. What about his sons? Oh, his descendants. Oh, I don't know if it quite works that way, Samuel. Well, you found out, didn't you? Okay. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you feel bad. Or worse. I find this interesting too. What was I just talking about? How are we worthy in front of God? What's Samuel doing? He wants to know how worthy he is in front of the people. Why? Is that important? He should know. He should go in front of Yahweh before he's passing. Say, have I been worthy, or do I need to start somewhere at the bottom one more time at my age and do some things better? He's not asking God, is he? He's asking the people. The people are happy with him. Hey, yeah, you gave us everything we want. Even though, what did Samuel also say to the people? God doesn't want you to have a king. He's supposed to be your guide. It's not some king out there. Oh, interesting. Okay. Samuel then said to the people, Yahweh's witness, he who raised, he never even asked him. He just puts Yahweh, again, what is he doing with God? He's just putting God in some kind of a position, right, as a witness, but he's never asked God about it, really, when it comes down to it. He who raised up Moses and Aaron, and who brought your ancestors out of Egypt. So now stay where you are, while I plead with you before Yahweh and remind you of all the saving acts which he has done for you and for your ancestors. He does remind them, though, but it's like this afterthought. It always reads like an afterthought rather than the core of the teaching. Right? After Jacob had arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians oppressed them, and your ancestors cried to Yahweh. Yahweh then sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your ancestors out of Egypt and gave them a settled home here. They then forgot Yahweh their God, and he sold them into the power of Sisera. Oh, interesting. Looky here. What were we talking about beforehand? I'm telling you what. This is just the kind of stuff where I have to say, how dare you wrote this down like that? God would sell his people like slaves. Huh? Really? Okay then. I don't know what God they're talking about here. I know it's not the God that we know. Or again, misrepresented. General of the army of Hazor, and also into the power of the Philistines and of the king of Moab, who made war on them. They cried to Yahweh, we have sinned, they said, for we have deserted Yahweh and served the Baals and the Astartes. Bring something else again to mind too. Who sold whom, truly, when it comes down to it, and why did people end up where they did? And how was God truly present when it came to all that? For example, slavery. Where was he truly present? When people, even still all around the world, are taking from somewhere and then sold into slavery. That's still happening. For all the ancestors of the people that were slaves, that came to the United States, what happened? How did God work there? That's how he works. He just tries. He's trying. Always tries to restore the damage. Always tries to find a way where then he shows everyone, you are worthy. Look, I'm trying. Trying. resolve the damage that was done. I'm always trying. Huh? Who should we trust the most? Who should we give the most of us? But here again, they're making it sound like God did it. It's like, no, you did that all by yourself. It's like it's all these fallible sentences here. Rescue us now from the power of our enemies, and we will serve you. How many times has God heard that? Yeah, you lose your worth when you break your word and your promise. Yeah, then you have to start at the bottom again. Yahweh then sent Jerubbaal, Barak, Jephthah, and Samuel. He rescued you from the power of the enemies surrounding you, and you lived in security. Right, and yet still. But when you saw Nahash, king of the Ammonites, marching on you, you said to me, no, we must have a king to rule us. Although Yahweh, your God, is your king. Wait a minute. So the thing about a king came up, wait a minute, but that's not what it said over here. The prince was already in place. Okay, well, they wrote it down the way they wanted to. Although Yahweh your God is your king. Oh, here again. But when you saw Nahash, king of the Ammonites, marching on you, you said to me, no, we must have a king to rule us, although Yahweh your God is your king. It goes right in one ear and out the other. So here is the king whom you have chosen. Yahweh has appointed you a king. Not true. If you fear, he did. If you fear and serve Yahweh and obey his voice and do not rebel against his commands, and if both you and the king who rules you follow Yahweh your God, all will be well. God already told them things will not be well with that. He already did. He already knows what's going to happen. Oh, because God can foresee the future? No, it's because he knows the people. By then, I guess he knows his people well enough. Yeah, that's going to go in one direction and one only. Because they're rejecting God as their ruler, God as their guide. They are. They want someone else. So how are they going to stick with God? They're not, obviously. God knows that. And the people will suffer under the rule of a king. People always suffer under the rule of a king. Always. They always do. Prove me wrong. Against your king. If you fear and serve Yahweh and obey his voice and do not rebel against his commands, and if both you and the king who rules you follow Yahweh your God, all will be well. It's not what God said. But if you do not obey Yahweh's voice, but rebel against his commands, Yahweh's hand will be against you and against your king. Stay where you are and see the wonder which Yahweh will do before your eyes. Is it not now that the wheat harvest? I shall call on Yahweh, and he will send thunder and rain, so that you may clearly understand what a very wicked thing you have done in Yahweh's eyes by asking for a king. What is this again? Are you guys hearing all this? There's so much confusion going on now, right? Yes, the confusion has completely started now. There seems to be no clear path. And it's all just a zigzag kind of thing where Samuel's trying to keep God in place, yet, and he can't do it without threats, this and that, I don't know what. And then again, with one sentence here, you have done a wicked thing by asking for a king in Yahweh's eye. But he's not discouraging the people. No, this went wrong. We go, and then the sons. Can you imagine? Here's Saul, doesn't really know anything about leadership, comes from a what? Small farm family or whatever, right? From a small tribe, this and that. And now there's these two sons who are going to be what? Of course, his advisors and this and that. And what have the sons already done? Kind of same as Eli's sons. Where do you think this is going to go? Samuel then called on Yahweh, and Yahweh sent thunder and rain the same day. Really? And all the people held Yahweh and Samuel in great awe. They all said to Samuel, "Pray for your servants to Yahweh your God, to save us from death. For to all our sins we have added this wrong of asking for a king." So they know. Wait a minute. So they know, but they still want it. They still want the wrong. Oh. Samuel said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Although you have done all these wicked things, do not withdraw your allegiance from Yahweh. Instead, serve Yahweh with all your heart. Do not transfer your allegiance to useless idols, which, being useless, are futile and cannot save anybody. Yahweh, for the sake of his great name, will not desert his people, for it has pleased Yahweh to make you his people. For my part, far be it from me to sin against Yahweh by ceasing to pray for you or to instruct you in the good and right way. Fear none but Yahweh, and serve him faithfully with all your heart, bearing in mind the wonder which he has just performed. But if you persist in wickedness, you and your king will perish." It's the end of 12. Okay. I'm not sure how are the Israelites going to, the beginning of Saul's reign, revolt against the Philistines. Okay. Oh. Yep, okay. They're persisting in the wrong, to move forward with the wrong thing. Right? Yes? Where do you think that's going to end? Is that going to end well? And it seems like, regardless on what Samuel now has to say, they don't care. He's not believed anymore. They don't care. Oh, they saw, thunder and rain. Oh, yeah, it did. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Ha ha. We're going to have a great harvest. Yeah, they're still moving in the wrong direction. Don't care. Yeah, so basically Samuel wasn't able to get the people back down again to the lowest level and say, we're going to have to become slaves again. We have to be slaves again. And in a way, what happened every time that they weren't, when they started to fall into idols again, looking in the neighbor's yard, see what they got, this and that, starting to do things that God instructed. No, don't do that. They became what again? Slaves to someone else. Yes? Had to start again. And during that time, when they somehow gained again some foothold with God. Right? Yes, they started to move towards God again. Right? Constantly asked, please deliver us. Eventually they were delivered again. And then what did they do? 20 years they had with Samuel. Sounds like peace and harmony and good times. Everybody got rich and fed well, this and that, right? Yes? And then what? Then what did they want? They wanted more. Right? Weren't happy with just pleasing God. Weren't happy with just having a relationship with God, making God a part of their people. Not just being God's people, but actually making God a part of their people. Yes? It's a good lesson. Interesting, right? Yes? And with what I talked beforehand. It's a up and down with the Israelites, right? Up and down, up and down. So many, yeah, we do believe, but running right on into the opposite direction. Samuel is trying, I can tell. Right? Yes? I don't know what I would have done at that time. It's difficult to know what one would do at Jesus' time as well. Right? Yes? But I'm here now, and what am I doing? Yes? I'm trying to give God's heart, and I'm not backing down. People want to put a king in front of me and say, well, but that king was anointed. It's happening, actually. I'm not talking first-hand experience. We're in the age of parents now, not of king and emperors, this or that. The age of parents, yes? And everyone starts again at the bottom, learning to be parents. Following God's ideal when it comes to family structure and how the four position works. Yes? God, man, woman, children. Four positions. And all are connected. Right? From God to man. From man to God. From God to woman. Woman to God. I think it's upside down. When you look at the diagram, man's on the left. As that's left, this is left. And then from man to woman, and woman to man. Yes? Okay. Then man to children, children to the man, the father. Right? Mother to the children, children to the mother. Children to God, God to the children. Yes? It's beautiful, isn't it? Yes. It's what? It becomes a circle of harmony and peace when things flow properly. Anyway, and that's something, yeah, we're all starting at the bottom again, trying to restore our ancestors and even our present conditions, this and that. We just try. We do our best. And when things don't turn out so well, you just start at the bottom again. You just do. And you try. Try again. Yes? Oh, with another? No, that's not what I'm talking about. No, restoring means you work in the family that you first created. Yes? Okay. Parentism. That's, yes, and how are parents attacked these days? With what kinds of things? And what are parents supposed to accept when it comes to their children? Yes, we lost the flow there. So let's start at the bottom again. We could talk about that all day. Anywho, so there it is. Yeah, you become worthy. If that's a question in people's, how do I? Scratch everything out of your life. Yeah. Your life, not scratch people out of your life. That's not what I said. And then you start building up again. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to share today. Yes. Yep. I hear little feet up there. God's love and blessings always. May He protect you, and I will talk to y'all another time.